going on, guys? Austin here, and in this video, we're going to be taking a look at 5-Minute Fantasy's Week 16 Booming and Busting Quarterbacks. So, I know it's playoff time, so things are going to get a little tense. If you have a quarterback that you think might not be playing or has a really bad matchup, and you really need to dig deep down, I'm looking for some reaching picks that might help you guys. I got Drew Lock of the Denver Broncos going up against the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions, they have a terrible defense so far this year. We saw what Drew Lock did against Houston last week against Kansas City. Kansas City's defense has been surging lately, so I wouldn't take that too lightly. But Drew Lock is definitely a very high value pick. So, if you are definitely going to lose the game and you need to reach, Drew Lock is a pretty good gamble for this Week 16 matchup against Detroit. Matt Ryan up against Jacksonville. Other than the Oakland game, Jacksonville had lost its last 5 straight games by 17 points or more, and the defense has been really disappointing. I don't think one trip out to Oakland is really going to change that. We've seen that, even with the, I think 24 points or 23 points was like the original final score of the San Francisco versus Atlanta game before, San Francisco finally took another touchdown. But, Matt Ryan up against this Jacksonville Jaguars defense is taking a step back is a pretty good pick. You've also got Jameis Winston. I know that Mike Evans is out and that right now I think Chris Godwin is limited in practice. But nonetheless, this Houston Texans defense, it's not that great. I know that last week a lot of people expected a shootout game between Tennessee and Houston, but, divisional games are really, divisional games aren't normally like that because they have a lot more defensive understanding. So Jameis Winston is a good pick against a weak Houston Texans defense. Ryan Fitzpatrick up against Cincinnati. I don't think that he's going to be throwing many touchdowns, or I don't think he's going to be throwing many interceptions in this game. So he's I think he's a high floor pick for this one, where, if you just need a guy that can get you 17, 18, 19, up to maybe 24, 25 points, Ryan Fitzpatrick is a good pick for that. Derek Carr against the Chargers. We all saw what Kirk Cousins just did, and I like Kirk Cousins a lot more than Derek Carr. However, there's not a lot left on the table for these Raiders, and I think that Derek Carr right now is playing for his job. I think Gruden basically kind of needs to see something from him. So, all the weapons that they have on offense, and how poorly the Chargers defense has been playing, Derek Carr should be a pretty safe pick going up against Los Angeles this week, and then Andy Dalton going up against Miami. Miami has a worse defense than Cincinnati does, but I think that Andy Dalton still, even though I think he had like 5 interceptions last week, it's New England, so, the points are probably going to go up a little bit. I'm going to take the under in the game, but still, Andy Dalton should be a safe pick in that game. And then quarterbacks, I'm going to say you're going to bust on. You're going to want to avoid Kirk Cousins going up against Green Bay. Green Bay has been doing pretty well at limiting opposing quarterbacks. That, along with the fact that Dalvin Cook, I don't think he's going to be playing in this game. I think it's likely he sits out the next 2 games. All Minnesota needs to do is just not lose the next 2 consecutive games against Green Bay and I believe Chicago. And they're guaranteed the 6th seed, which I don't think they're going to be expecting to catch up to the 5 seed. Now, if they beat Green Bay, they might be able to jump up to that 3 line, but I think they're going to rather play it safe, just get into the postseason, than worry about the seeding. So I'd be careful about starting Kirk Cousins, just because the parts around him might be limited. Patrick Mahomes, he has to go up against the Chicago Bears defense. The last couple weeks Patrick hasn't looked the same. The Kansas City Chiefs offense is still humming, but be careful about him. Don't expect him to be able to win you your fantasy matchups. I'm going to say sit Ryan Tannehill going up against New Orleans. New Orleans defensively has been doing a whole lot better than they have in years past, and I think this year is kind of like the culmination of that. I expect New Orleans to win the Super Bowl, and I think that they have one of the most underrated defenses in the NFL. I'm going to say sit Aaron Rodgers. I know that Minnesota has a really poor pass defense, but it's just a really good matchup. I believe that Minnesota is either 6-0 or 7-0 at home right now, and they've got some really nice pieces that just haven't pulled it together yet. And I think that they, especially in divisional games, which tend to be lower scoring, I think that Aaron Rodgers is going to get limited, like he has in the last couple weeks. And then Phillip Rivers going up against Oakland. As much as I hate to say it, I think Phillip Rivers is done in the Chargers, San Diego, Los Angeles, whatever you want to call it. I think again he threw another 5 interceptions last week against Minnesota, which is unfortunate. But he's projected to do a lot because of Oakland's defense. But I would avoid starting Phillip Rivers this week.